Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Jabroni Drive. On this week's episode, we talk about SummerSlam, Logan, Paul, Ricochet, Cody, Brock, LA Knight, Gunther, Drew, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, the Bloodline, Bobby, Shinsuke, and Chad Gable. Oh, thank you. Timmy, do you have anything you'd like to say to all the Schmin-Lavelites out there tuning in?
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody.
You better call somebody. Jabroni Drive starts now. I love it.
I don't know how you have that much energy to do that every single time.
I'll tell you what, that song just starts pumping through my veins, and I become a warrior, dare I say, an ultimate warrior. All right, Tim, let's get right to it, dude. There is so much to cover. We had a huge PLE this past weekend, the biggest PLE since the beginning of Jabroni Drive. Super excited to talk about it. We're going to jump right in head first. Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns, Tribal Combat. First thing, your thoughts on the match. What did you think on the match, on the entrance, the whole deal? What did you think of this match?
So, yeah, it lived up to the billing. I felt it delivered on every level. It was a slow build throughout the match. It had its different spots, and some of the things that we expected to happen. Obviously, Solo getting involved. There was a spot that where they took it out into the crowd, into the audience, which is a cool spot. Apparently Roman Reigns got hurt during the match. There's more to come on that, but I mean, it was a hard hitting match. Roman went through some tables, took some shots, some leather belt strap shots.
Oh, the strap was awesome. I loved the strap. That was honestly, that was one of my favorite parts of the match.
Yeah. And it was vicious. I mean, I think at one point Jey gets power bombed onto steel chairs.
Yeah, that was bad too.
The Solo goes through a table. It had every element to a heavyweight match that you want to see. And Roman, to his credit, he took some bumps too. It was cool to see that. For as he doesn't work as often as most of the other wrestlers, but it's good to see him push his limits throughout that entire match. Obviously they have a good chemistry together, Jey and Roman, and it seemed like a good fit throughout. Obviously the big thing was at the end where we see Jimmy come out and prevent Jey after hitting the Uso splash from finishing the pin. Now who knows if Roman would have kicked out there. I don't know how they would have planned it, but obviously at the end, Jimmy pulls Jey out of the ring, and the super kick ensues, and it's just I want to say it was just predictable, and it's unfortunate because the writing has been so good, but it just seemed like the only ending that was possible in the story of the Bloodline, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It just seems like if they're going to make Jey, main event Jey Uso, and they're going to give him the push that he seemingly deserves because he's been the star during this whole Bloodline storyline, then they had to separate Jimmy and Jey.
Right.
And the only way to do that was this whole storyline where Jimmy comes back, and look, we'll find out more on SmackDown at the end of the week, but it just seems like the only way to separate them is for Jimmy to turn on Jay, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And the way the storyline played out, it was Jimmy's turn. And now who knows? It seems like we got a little nugget that Jimmy's supposed to pay homage to Roman as the tribal chief, and I don't know if that's the way it's going to go. Uh, I don't see him rejoining the bloodline or anything like that. I didn't see they didn't hop in there and put Roman on top of Jay, for the pin or anything like that. I didn't see anything in favor of Roman just besides him pulling him out from the 3 count, right? Like that's
Right.
the only assistance he really gave, right? He didn't beat the shit out of him or anything like that with
Yeah. He,
chairs or
yeah. He pulled him out and he super kicked him and then threw him back in the ring. You know what? Before I get to the Jimmy stuff, the match, the whole thing, and we've talked about on the show how um when we hear different interviews from like the all-time greats, you're talking about a Ric Flair, an Undertaker, a Bret Hart, these guys that have been in the ring that you could say are the best of all time, have talked about how wrestlers need to slow it down, slow it down, slow it down, build it. There's so much times where it's super fast and all the time. And there's a time for that. Roman has really done a good job of that slow build of a match. And it just kind of builds and builds and builds and builds. And it almost makes every move mean something. And so in that match, they did a great job. Him and Jay, obviously, like you talked about, they have the great chemistry. And the slam on the chairs, the power bomb on the chairs, the setup of the table outside that they end up going through, the leather strap, the then Solo interferes, then he comes back and he gets him, and then Solo gets speared by Roman, which was a big moment in the match. Then Jay gets Roman, does the splash, 1, 2, Jimmy pulls him out, super kick, like you were just mentioning. We had talked about how, and I think we mentioned that Jimmy had to get, like we said that he had to be injured. We kind of wrote him off with an injury that he'd be gone for a while. And that's how Jay would, at least that's how I think I wrote him off, is that he would be injured for a while. And that would be the only way Jay could get the run. And I guess this is where my problem with the whole thing is that the Jimmy turn on Jay, to me, it doesn't make sense. It seems like a lazy write-in, and they didn't know how to finish. Ironically, we were just talking about movies that kind of didn't know how to finish this great story. And it seems to me like this is what it is. Jimmy and Jay have been tag teams since they came into WWE, before they, anything like that. And so initially when I saw it, I was like, this is silly. I don't like it. I don't like this at all. I think it's, just it's too easy. It's like just something that, and it didn't make sense. Jimmy turned on Roman. To me, it didn't make sense at the time. Jimmy turned on Roman. He super kicked him. He told Jay he did what Jay should have done a while ago. And then they both decided to leave, and then they do the tag team again. Like, Jimmy is the reason Jay is not in the bloodline anymore, or one of the main reasons he pulled the trigger. So it was kind of like it didn't make sense to me until we were texting back and forth. And shout out to the HJB. He had brought up this thing, and now it kind of makes sense to me. And I think where they're going, Tim, and you tell me if you agree. There was the spear on Solo, the accidental spear. And there's been dissension between Solo and Roman for a little bit now that's been building. Obviously, Jimmy turns on Jay. Jay is on his own now. And they all think they should be tribal chief. And is this leading to a fatal four-way to decide who is tribal chief and the undisputed WWE heavyweight champion? Fatal four-way, Roman versus Jay versus Jimmy versus Solo to decide it all.
Well, that would be a cool way to do it. It just doesn't makes sense because the bloodline's dead. Does everyone then fall in line?
Yeah, what happens after that match, right? Do they all just are they all on their own now? Because like it doesn't seem like Roman can lose that match. He's got to keep the belt until Mania, right?
Right.
Like,
So if my point is, I mean, there's still a bloodline between Solo and Roman. So I mean, if Jay did win that match, what happens? Jay gets the Hakura, whatever it's called, the necklace around, right?
yeah,
He's sporting that. Does Roman then fall in line and become a member of the bloodline and follows Jay around? Like, how does that work? So my point is, yeah, that storyline's great, but if they're going to do a fatal four way to decide who's the tribal chief, after someone wins, does everyone else fall in line and say, "Hey, look, we're the bloodline again,"
yeah, yeah.
or
Well, we
or is
figured
that
it out.
or
No
is it just
animosity, right, guys?
yeah yeah is it or is it just the end of the bloodline and that's that? Like, hey, who's the best wrestler here, right? So it depends on which way they want to go with it, in my opinion. So I it just it could go that direction. I really don't see Jimmy rejoining the bloodline. That seems like the advertisement that we got for SmackDown on Raw. But it, I'm fearful of just them extending the bloodline just to extend it, right? Like
Right.
I'm fearful. Hey, look, it
We're
was a
on the
great run.
line of is this too much now? They've main evented how many pay-per-view PLEs in a row?
Yeah,
And are we just drawing it out to draw it out now? Like, and
yeah,
as a company, you look at your profit and you look at
yeah,
your viewership. I mean, it's as high as it's ever been. This is the most grossing PLE of all time next to a WrestleMania and the biggest SummerSlam of all time. So
yeah.
they do they think they're doing something right?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the decision that they're going to have to make is where do we blur the lines here, right? It's like, hey, we had a great. It's just like, look, all the other companies, the companies before us, the factions before them, they've gone too far with them, right? And it's the writer's decision to know when enough is enough. When is it over? And we've seen factions like NWO, Reborn, and expand, and then just branch out. And look, obviously there can't be other bloodlines or anything like that, but it's just like how long do we extend it for? Where are we going with it? Is enough? The reign is over, right? Like they're going to obviously continue it to WrestleMania until next year. So we have the bloodline angle till probably next year, till next April, until he's dethroned, because they're not going to take the belt off him before that. They're not going to take it off him at the Royal Rumble or at Backlash or any of these other pay-per-views before WrestleMania, because he's the biggest draw right now. Um, Probably along with Cody. But
Right. It all
there's no
leads to Cody eventually winning the belt, right?
that's it seems like that's the road, that's the destination.
So
But
does
you're
WWE fall into a trap of it
yeah, you're
becoming
gonna
too predictable?
well, yeah, you're gonna have to fill unless they just completely implode the bloodline and Roman goes solo and he holds the title and just defends it on his own as the solo member of the blood. I look again. I hate predicting on how it's going to go because if the writers are the writers and they have a plan and they probably have something in store that we don't know about. But like this past SummerSlam was completely predictable, and it's a shame that it went in that direction because I felt like there could have been different angles that they could have went that assisted the storyline with keeping Jimmy and Jay together while still letting them have their own singles career. Like it doesn't, they could have stayed together, right? And they could have
Yeah.
continued to make it a solo Reigns, Jimmy and Jay battle, and yeah, they've made their bed now, so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I don't like it, but we'll see. It just seems like you said, it seems lazy. It seems like the easy way out.
Yeah. And it to me, it doesn't make sense. Like, it just it's almost like a kid is writing this. You know what I mean? Like, so where is this going? That oh, you know what we'll do? Great idea. The twin brother will turn on him. These guys that have been like, so then where does it? Are these guys going to get back together eventually? You know what I mean? You just cost him the greatest match in the history of his life. I don't know. It seems like it leads to a long breakup. All right, one of the highlights of the night, and maybe that's a little foreshadowing there, was the Logan Paul Ricochet match. It started the show, hot match, Logan Paul, and we talked about last week how Ric Flair said that Logan Paul was better than 70% of WWE locker room right now. Timmy, are we talking 90% of the WWE locker room now after this match? This match was great from start to finish. Logan Paul has it all. He's a superstar. He's got on mic skills. He plays a great heel, and in the ring, his style is new age. It's the way it is now. He's high flying. He's hard hitting. He's got the look. Logan Paul has it all. Is Logan Paul going to get a championship push at some point?
Well, he's going to have to commit. He's been on camera a lot leading up to SummerSlam, so he's made appearances on Raw, and he's shown his face a lot more, which is nice. But I think he's going to have to be a lot more involved. He doesn't have the staying power that Brock Lesnar does, where he can come in for 3 months, win a belt, beat the shit out of people, leave for 9 months, and come back. And he's not that guy. You're not that guy, bud.
You're not that guy, bud.
But to your point, he's a performer, man. He is a showman, and he shows out every match that we've seen him in now. He has delivered a memorable moment, and it's hard to say that any of the roster has been better than him, during these PLEs. It's been really good. But you also have to give credit to the guy that he's sharing those moments with, which is Ricochet. And
yes,
and Ricochet, that dude is an unbelievable athlete, talent. He's not great on the mic, but holy shit, man, these two have a chemistry together that could really be something to see. It reminds me a little bit of like, Edge and Christian with Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy. But like, look, these guys aren't in tag team matches, but those dudes were like high flyers, right? They took risks. They did everything they could to sell the match. And Ricochet and Logan Paul, they have that natural chemistry together. Yeah, obviously there was a spot that was missed, but they turned that out to be one of the best spots. And I'm talking about the last PLA, or was that even on Raw? No, that was that
no,
during the
Money in the Bank
ladder match, Money in the Bank ladder match.
Yeah.
They missed that spot, and they still turned it into be a great moment, right?
One of the moments in this match when I want to say Ricochet maybe caught Logan off of like a moonsault or something, and then it sped to a spinning DDT was incredible.
It was insane.
It's funny,
yeah.
and this is for the AEW marks out there. That would be all over social media. Like, look at how great AEW is right now. This is like every day for Like, this shows the talent level of WWE. That's a little shot at all you AEW marks out there. Timmy, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, we'll see how it plays out with Logan Paul. It would be interesting if they continue the Ricochet angle, because they do have something there. But there was the brass knuckles that happened during that match, and then the shout out, or the call out to Ricochet's fiance. So it seems like there's going to be a lot more build to that, which would be nice. And
maybe we see a rematch at Payback.
Yeah, no, it would be cool to see that, because I would love to see more of that, because it's so entertaining. Um, and we'll see how it develops. But I think it's going to be a Ricochet Logan Paul future for the next month or so.
Yeah, I would love to see this go to a real feud where maybe we get a cage match or something out of it. That would be awesome, you
That'd be
know?
that would be cool.
If you told me Logan Paul and Ricochet were gonna have a cage match at Survivor Series, I am circling that match like must see
Yeah.
TV. All right, speaking of must see TV, Timmy, a match that we had circled this past weekend was, I mean, it lived up. There were so many great matches at this PLE. Another another home run for WWE in a string of home runs at PLEs, leading all the way back to, the last year, probably since Clash of the Castle last year. Gunther versus Drew McIntyre. We had this match circled. We were looking
Mm.
forward to it. It was as hard hitting as we thought it was going to be. Gunther ends up winning clean. What did you think of this match? I know this is our type of style that, like, we love a Logan Paul Ricochet, but these are our boys. You know what I mean? Like these are the bangers. These are the guys that I feel like Jabroni Drive has there's a place in our heart for these
We
types of
we
matches.
resonate with these types of matches,
Yeah,
Tom. I
we
think
really
that's what you're
do.
looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it delivered the way that we thought it was going to. You can predict the way that these matches are going to go between all these guys, right? Like Gunther and Sheamus and McIntyre. Uh, and like my issue, and I've been saying this for a little while now. Okay, these matches are great. I love them, but at this point in time, Gunther is bigger than this belt. And I know that they're holding on and they want to essentially dry erase the honky tonk man's record of holding the intercontinental title for as long as he had. And he's been he's the guy at the top and they want Gunther to probably pass him. But it just was a good time, in my opinion, to let that belt drop the belt to McIntyre. It just there's a point in time now where like we have the Intercontinental title that's been held on for almost 2.5 years, 2 years, right? We have the World Heavyweight, not the World Heavyweight title, but the Universal
Undisputed
Undisputed
championship.
Championship
Yeah.
that's been held on for over 3 years. Their staying power, I get it, but like it's I think at some point it's got to end. And McIntyre is just he's such a draw, man. And he's, in my opinion, he comes back from the injury. He stays loyal to the WWE with after all those AEW like rumors that
Rumors.
were going around. And I'm not saying that the Intercontinental title is what he ultimately wants. I get it, but it does have cachet and it does hold weight. And beating Gunther, who's held the title for over how long again? You know
I
it better
mean,
than I do.
he's going to break Honky Tonk's record. I was going to say we're coming up on 2 years almost.
So it just would be a significant win for him. And I just think that Gunther it's time for him to move on to that heavyweight title. He needs to start a feud with somebody else. Whether it be Seth Rollins, because you know where the undisputed title's heading in terms of who's going to be the challenger for that, right?
Right.
So in my opinion, it's okay for Gunther not to hold the title for a little bit of time, right? Like, hey, cause some chaos, right? Like he's now getting on the mic, he's starting to do his own thing. He's starting to show a little bit more personality than just coming out and being dry and doing his pose and beating the shit out of people. He's starting to get on the mic, like just start wreaking havoc on the roster. Start becoming like a beast incarnate, right? Like it seems like the route that you should go with this guy because he does have that type of staying power where he can destroy a roster, right?
Right.
And I think you can build him up in that manner. He doesn't need to have the Intercontinental title. So, in my opinion, I think they could have went in a different direction with the result of the match, but it was from again start to finish. It's a great match. I hated him getting pinned clean
It
because I
was
think Mac
clean. Yeah.
I
McIntyre
love.
deserves more. And that's what's tough about this because, as you're saying, McIntyre's like, he's a WrestleMania main event caliber. Right? He's a superstar. He's a monster. He has it all. He has everything, right? Is that like, I think we
Yeah,
both agree with that. And so he has, and for him to beat Gunther, it would make total sense. And I think that's part of the frustrating part because we knew Gunther was going to win going in, being that we're less than 30 days away from him breaking Honky Tonk Man's record. They want him to take that record. We knew he was going to take it. So where does this leave Drew McIntyre? I don't know. Timmy, where, like, because you can't put him against Roman. He's on a different show, I guess. I don't know if that's even a thing. And you can't put him against Seth because they're both baby faces. So it's like, where do you go? Where do you go with the superior talent of Drew McIntyre now that he deserves a belt, he deserves a championship, and he deserves to be one of the most relevant wrestlers in WWE. And now it's like, well, what, like, now we're lost. It's almost like he's going to go into an AJ Styles territory. He's going to go into, Bobby Lashley territory now. Like,
well,
and you can't do that with him. He's too
well,
valuable.
it's
A
tough.
Sheamus territory.
I was talking to a buddy of mine, who's I'd mentioned him on the show before, and his name's Nick Montes, and
Probably
he
another
said some
Montez that doesn't follow the show that, refuses.
he doesn't have any social media, so
Good for him.
but he is really tuned into everything WWE. He's talking to me about New Japan Wrestling years ago, about AJ Styles before he even came over, like all these guys, right? And he said that something that was really interesting to me, and it sounds like what you're trying to say right now is that the WWE has so much talent, and there's not enough belts to go around. And I hate the two belts, but it almost is necessary with what you have on rosters right now, right?
Yeah.
These guys are just look. I think Drew McIntyre is a star. I think Sheamus is, as much as I love Sheamus and his matches. I don't think he's the best on the mic. Like I think Drew's slightly better than him. Um,
Yeah, I would say Drew's a step above Sheamus overall,
but
and I agree with that.
you got to reward guys with right that have stayed loyal, that can perform, that can deliver on all facets of
That's the
what they
thing
do.
about a Sheamus. He's wrestling every night for you. He's on the
Yeah.
on the night shows. He's on all the everything. Sheamus does
Yeah.
it all.
So my point is just like where do we how do you reward so much talent, right? You talked about AJ Styles, you got Seth Rollins, you got Shinsuke Nakamura, you got the LA Knight that wants a push, right? You got Omos, who's he's getting thrown into the fire right now. Like you got this giant 7'4" guy that they just had come out in the battle royal and just kill almost everybody, right? Like he's getting a push. It's like you need fresh storylines, right? And if you're not going to reward people with titles, you need to keep them interesting and you need to keep it fresh. So if you're not going to have them involved in any type of title matches, and this is what I think the Attitude Era used to do so well, was just to keep storylines that just had no real meaning whatsoever, but they had meaning to the story, right? Like it was just like, I mean, remember Mark Henry is like dating friggin' who's the
Mule or
got
Moolah or whatever. The
yeah,
fabulous. Yeah.
like stupid shit like that, that keeps them interesting and keeps them fresh in people's minds so they don't fall into that territory that you're talking about with like Sheamus and AJ Styles. Like, like AJ Styles, you don't even remember what he did last week. Like, what did he do last week? Oh, Karrion Kross came out and beat up one of his OC
Another guy
buddies.
that gets lost, it's just there is so much talent here. And is that why, you start throwing them on an NXT, and seeing something like that? Like, is Drew McIntyre headed to NXT to go for an NXT championship or something? Hey, if he went down and ruled NXT, I wouldn't be too upset about that. He deserves more. I'm not saying that, but like, there just seems to be nothing here for him, and he
But
deserves to
hold on,
hold a title.
when was the last time we saw like like someone get run over by a limo, like outside of the, you know what I mean? Like crazy outside the box, like storylines that, I mean, most of them are just kind of, the bloodline and all this other stuff. And like, there hasn't been really much like outside of just like the wrestling type of storyline.
Right.
You
There's
get
no
what I'm
milk
saying?
trucks. There's no beer trucks. There's no, a car exploding. There's no
Well,
attacks on a
and
house. And
I'm
I
not
hear what you're
saying all that.
saying.
Like, I'm just saying, like, hey, look, if we're not rewarding these guys with titles, we need to have the storytelling to be like just a lot more interesting. So people get engaged in these guys and say, hey, I'm going to turn on Raw. I can't wait to see AJ Styles, whatever.
One that
Like
just pops into my mind right now is a guy that was never a main kind of guy. Val Venus, he had the thing where he was going against the Asian dudes. The next thing you know, he's tied up in the locker room and they're chopping his thing off. You
yeah,
know what I mean? And I
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
I remember being like, oh my God, like, and I had to tune in next week. But like silly stuff like that
Like
makes
Papa
you
Shango, and I remember Papa Shango and the Ultimate Warrior had like this thing like with like the green mist,
right.
right? Like that Papa Shango put a spell on the Ultimate Warrior, and like it was just like, holy shit, dude, like is Ultimate Warrior okay? And like all that stuff. Like that, I think that's what we, if you have that much talent on your roster, you really need to engage in storytelling at a different level to keep those faces fresh and to keep those wrestlers interesting, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Right. I agree with you, Timmy. So there's so much talent on the roster, and one of the guys that we've been talking about um big time is Mr. L.A. Knight. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like someone's wearing his shirt right now. So Battle Royal, big Battle Royal this weekend, and we were talking about how and I think a big reason why they have these Battle Royals, one is they're being sponsored by Slim Jim. Two, it gives them a chance to put on a lot of these wrestlers that don't have a storyline right now. You've got an AJ Styles out there. You've got the United States champion Austin Theory out there that who knows what the hell is going on with this guy? I know he's facing Pablo/Santos Escobar this Friday for the United States champ, but like they fumbled all like there is there a problem with WWE that they have too much talent and they just can't figure it out? I guess we're saying that, and there's not enough. Ironically, there's not enough time in fucking 5 hours a week of main roster and 2 hours of NXT a week to put all these guys out there and develop real storylines. I don't know, but big win for LA Knight. I loved that he won. They had redemption for the SmackDown botch, I guess, and he slammed Sheamus and ended up throwing him over the top rope. Not only did I love that, I love the press conference afterwards that we checked out and we were sending to each other. Him talking about, he's ready to go right now. He's been ready for so long, and he believes in himself and all this other stuff. And it was just the way he said it, the way he's handling himself. This guy's been ready to be over for several months now, and he's kept the ball rolling. He's kept that snowball growing, and I got to give him some credit. It seems like he is truly prepared for this, and I think all of his experience is leading up to this. His merch sales are still as high as they've been for the last month or so, and he and the Miz had a couple great promos on Monday Night Raw this week that I really liked it. Gave LA Knight a chance to kind of show where he's been the last 20 years. And it was brief, but it was enough for him to say, hey, I've been doing this for a while and they've been betting on the wrong horses all the time. And I loved that line. And he knows that he's the guy and he's just getting started. What did you think of LA Knight winning? And then the promo and now maybe this kind of feud with him and the Miz, who I think seems to be a first of all, another talent that hasn't gotten much story time, but is great to match up with LA Knight.
Yeah, I think he's a perfect dancing partner, if you will, for LA Knight, because they both have a great gift of gab. They're perfect on the mic. I think their styles will match up pretty well in the ring too, as well. LA Knight is essentially I don't know. He's almost like the Miz. If the I don't know, what am I trying to say? If the Miz started his career at the age of 40, right? Like they're like carbon copies of each other almost.
Well, that was a great thing he said on Monday night. He said, you were here and you took the orders. I don't take the orders. I'm not a guy that says not LA Knight, and you won all these championships I never seen, and good on you. But now it's my time, like something along those lines. I was like, yeah, man, I dig that.
Yeah, it was a very good promo from both sides. Yeah, and it reminded me, like, Miz does his Miz TV thing and it's fun, but like when he's engaged in a promo with another athlete, another wrestler, right, that he obviously has plans on wrestling, it seemed like it had a little bit of a different edge to it. And it was a cool dynamic to see him go through that and challenge him. And you could tell that Miz was pushing his buttons a little bit, right? You could tell that Miz was the seasoned vet there. And he was putting almost LA Knight to the test. So it was cool. It was a cool promo. It was good to see LA Knight deliver. He fumbled one of his lines, but then he quickly recovered. But I thought it was a good start to the Miz LA Knight promo.
Feud. Yeah, and you know what? Hopefully this is the beginning of that LA Knight push that we've been talking about for a while. And Miz, it seems like when they ask him to step up, like you're mentioning, Tim, he seems to do it. There was a couple years back when Miz had fallen stale for quite a while and he became the Intercontinental Champion. And him and Daniel Bryan had a back and forth on Talking Smack at the time, which was a post-show thing. Him and Daniel Bryan, who's Bryan Danielson now on AEW, went back and forth, and The Miz went back at him and cut a great promo, which led to people really being like, wow, you didn't know if it was real or not, and it was on that edge of an awesome promo, and it led to a great Intercontinental title match between him and Dolph Ziggler, who's one of our boys, Mr. Dolph Ziggler. And he had a great promo. And so it seems like when Miz is up to set up, he steps up to the task. And him and LA Knight should be a great feud. We're really looking forward to it. And hopefully LA Knight gets pushed to the moon as of right now. We'll see where it goes. All right. So another big match. The third match, and what seemed to be the final match of this big feud, Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. And Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. I was highly anticipating this match. Cody Rhodes, one of the most over wrestlers in all of WWE right now. They just came out with this documentary, and if you haven't checked out his documentary, please go look at it. It's a great story that tells the beginning of his career. It talks about Dusty, about being in his shadow, about him in high school being a state champion wrestler, coming up, trying to go to Hollywood, failing at Hollywood, going to WWE, getting a push almost immediately because of his talent level. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Becoming Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare, I believe, is the story of it. So Cody versus Brock, we talked about last week, the promo video before that match. Incredible promo video that'll get you hyped up for this match. Cody goes in to one of the best entrances you'll see in WWE. The match is hard hitting. The thing I liked about this match is they did a lot with the 10 count. You don't see that too often in like them talking about or in a match. They went to this 10 count over and over and over again. I really enjoyed that because it was different. It was something that you don't see all the time. Um, it was back and forth, and like, is he going to make it or not? And you knew he was going to make it in every single time, but the way they kept going back to it, I really enjoyed. Hard hitting. You have Cody with the scrapes on his leg. You got Brock with his trunks ripped open, and the way this match ended, it kind of led me to where I've keep been talking about this. I've kept talking about this for a couple months. We still don't have an explanation to why Brock attacked Cody. We still don't know why Brock attacked Cody. And I think that he was a paid hitman. He keeps talking about in his promo leading up to the match. I get paid to kick Cody Rhodes' ass this weekend, and he gets paid to get his ass kicked by Brock Lesnar. And it's just this thing where it's almost like they're planting the seeds where I feel like in a couple months we're going to get an explanation. Like, you really don't have a clue to Cody. You don't know why I attacked you. You still don't know why I attacked you. Well, I attacked you because I was paid by Triple H. I was paid by Vince McMahon, by the powers that be, that don't want you to have the main event spot. They don't want you to have the title. They want me to take you out because you were never supposed to be the guy. You left, you went to a different company. Now you've come back and you think you can just run shop on everyone here, and it's not going to happen. So that's where I went. The match overall, I thought, was a great match. Cody wins clean. Brock grabs him, shakes his hand, which kind of has everyone like shaking their head, like, why is he shaking his hand? Even Cody's like shaking, like, okay, like, what's going on? Which, like I said, leads me to believe that Brock had been paid by someone to take over Timmy. I think that Brock has been paid to take out Cody Rhodes by a higher up, and that's why he's shaking the hands. I know you enjoyed the match. What did you think about, just real quick, like, give me a rating on this match, and where do you think this is going? It seems like Brock's going to be taking some time off, and Cody is going to be moving forward. I'm sensing a new opponent for him, a kind of surprise opponent, and I'm hoping that it's someone like RKO Randy Orton. I don't know what his injury status is, but something along those lines. What did you think of the match, and where do you think Cody's going?
I love like, so what, while I'm watching the match, I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what, dude? I was getting kind of bored with it, right? Because it was the same shit over and over again. Like, they're using this count out technique, and then like towards the middle of it, I started figuring out what they're doing, right? So they're again, we talk about the slow build all the time, right? With this match. And with Brock, most of his matches aren't slow builds. They're quick. They're 5 to 7 minutes, like, dominate in and out. And this one was the opposite. And the way it was going for Cody, you thought that, holy shit, dude, they're just gonna let Brock beat the shit out of him and it's gonna be over. And the more and more you saw it build, you're like, holy shit, man, they're really building Cody into this like almost superhero, right? He's getting his ass absolutely handed to him. F5 outside, right? Like, he's getting
Through the
just
table.
through the table. I mean, some of the suplexes that he took too, the belly to backs, were vicious. I mean, at one point he just threw Cody like he was nothing, like a bag
Oh,
of
that
dirt.
was a great moment. I loved that. And And some of the suplexes were inches away from being almost catastrophe. Cody's head could have hit that bottom rope, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. And it it was it was cool to see, them use the 10 count, because you haven't seen that method really used at all.
Right. That's what I was
Uh
saying. It was a lot of like, you don't see that too often. So I like that new aspect as you're saying too.
yeah. Uh yeah, ultimately I think we knew that Cody had to win this match. And you needed it to be a clean pin, as much as we hated the clean pin on Drew McIntyre by Gunther. You needed it from Cody, really, to to put him in that upper echelon, right? Like the saga, as we saw. By the way, the promos leading up to this match were phenomenal. And WWE does a hell of a job with really building, these just incredible like vignette promos with the music tied into them. But that the three match saga ended up being really, really well done. And just the progress of each of the matches and to the last one was really good. It each match had its different points and its different highlights. And this one, yeah, obviously at the end, Cody goes above and beyond. We hadn't seen this one yet, where the Cody cutter goes to the top rope and he hits the Cody cutter off the top rope, which gives it a little bit more emphasis, right? Like,
Right.
it's hard to believe that Brock Lesnar is going to lose on a Cody cutter, but like when you take it to the next level, when you go to the top rope and, it has a little bit more emphasis on it, you're like, holy shit, man, that's a major move. And then the one thing that parallel that I thought was really, really big for the next chapter of Cody was him doing the crossroads 3 times in a row. And Tom, where else did we see that at?
We saw that at WrestleMania,
And what happened?
and then it was interference and he lost the match. Yes.
Right. So him doing it 3 times, right, and getting the clean pin on Brock Lesnar shows you that, hey, if Brock can lose on it, then Roman Reigns can lose on it. And guess what?
Right.
Brock's pinned, I think, Roman Reigns 4 times. And it sets up for the believability aspect. If you really want to go into it, if you really want to dive into like the technicalities of the matches and who pinned what and what move, and all that stuff, you have no argument.
Right.
Right. So Cody now has that in his back pocket. Hey,
Right.
I hit it on him. It took down Brock Lesnar. Should be able to take down Roman Reigns.
Right. And
That's
you know what? There's a lot of talk about how the finishing moves, they kick out of them too much. And so it's interesting that you say that he did it 3 times. And that's what led to he had to Cody cutter from the top, one, one crossroads, two crossroads, three crossroads. Then he gets the pinfall, which is similar to what he did at WrestleMania, but there was the interference with Solo at that point. So the three, the finishing move, it's going to take more than one. It's going to take more than one spear. It's going to take more than one frog splash or more than one Cody cutter. Now this is a new wave of professional wrestling. It's going to take more than one. There's no finishing move and it's done. It takes more than
right.
one F5 to really beat a top tier opponent, more than one RKO to take out a top tier opponent. So maybe that's the planting of that seed too. Like, hey, he did it at Mania. Now he's done it at SummerSlam. And to take out the top guys, you got to do more than one. And that kind of circles back to when John Cena beat an AJ Styles for the first time at the Royal Rumble in one of the all-time great matches. He does the attitude adjustment, rolls through, does it again. He had to do it 2 times in a row. So when we talk about these finishing moves and how they don't finish anymore, well, it's a different world now, and maybe it takes more than one. So Timmy, I think you're onto something with that.
The and just to add where I think this is going with Cody. Um, Look, there's going to be a build up to WrestleMania. In the meantime, he's going to probably do some things here and there. But what I saw on Raw, I got a little nervous about when Cody comes out and he's telling his story and he's giving kudos to Brock Lesnar. By the way, the after the match, we have to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah.
But he's Cody's giving his kudos to Brock Lesnar, and then Seth Rollins' music hits, and I'm like, we've already seen this 3 times. Like, we cannot see this again. Like, we can't go back to the Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes match again, because number one, that's not the avenue that he needs to go in. He just got essentially put over by Brock Lesnar, and you're gonna put him against Seth Rollins, who just fought Finn Balor for the world
Well, I
title.
think that's the swerve. This is where WWE is swerving right now because they know that's not going to happen. They did it already where
Yeah,
we were watching the one Raw and we are like, wow, what a hot start the one time. And this is like probably a month ago. And Seth came out and then Cody came out and then Brock's music hit and interrupted them. And same thing happened with this one, except this time Cody came out, Seth came out, and then Judgment Day's music came out and interrupted him. So sorry, go
yeah,
ahead, keep going. And you wanted to talk about the finish of that match with the handshake that
yeah, and it was interesting because you don't really see that type of, I mean, from Brock Lesnar at all. I mean, you don't see any humility or any acknowledgement, or he's usually done the match and he's out of there, and he'll probably F5 you on the way out.
right.
Here you get a handshake, a hand raise, and a hug, and a little bit of a headbutt, which was kind of cool too.
I don't think I've ever seen that from Brock Lesnar ever.
Now, it was interesting because they talk about it. They asked Triple H after the match in his press conference if that was planned, and he said no. Again, he's going to tell a story one way or another. But with that endorsement, you get the next guy. I mean, that's what they're essentially telling you, is that, hey, we're 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 endorsing this guy. He's going to be the man. He's going to be the man moving forward. So, we're hitching our trailer to him. We're hitching our wagons to him, and we're going to let him take us as far as this thing can go until the wheels fall off. Obviously, you still have Roman there, but it looks like Cody's the next guy. He's going to be the chosen one, and we asked for it for at WrestleMania. We thought that he was going to be the guy to knock off Roman. Um, we we also said that it might take a little bit more time than we thought it would, and it seems like that's the case. So
Yeah, and I'm liking that build, and I'm curious to see who his next hurdle is going to be. I feel like with Judgment Day coming out, I feel like there's going to be a short feud with Dom Dom, and then, like I mentioned, I feel like somehow Randy Orton's going to be worked into this story, and it's going to be all part of the higher ups trying to keep Cody down so that he can't take the title. But we'll see. There's a lot of things to go, and that's just my brain trying to book all the matches for the next year. As Timmy knows I
you're
love to
already
do.
done. You're already
Yeah.
done. Yeah, yeah.
So the next match we're going to talk about, one of the again, another great match. Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. This match had everything. I loved the build to this match. We've really been digging the Judgment Day lately. This has been the best they've been since they've become a faction, and certainly the best they've been in the last year and a half. And particularly these last couple months, Judgment Day has been on fire with Mommy, Dom, Damian Priest, and Finn Balor. And I thought this was a great match. I really did enjoy this match. Finn Balor, Seth Rollins ends up winning. The only person that Finn Balor can blame for this is himself. Damian Priest came out, and it was very clear that he was trying to help Finn Balor win this match, and there was that back and forth a little bit too much here and there, and Finn Balor ended up costing. I thought was a great match. I thought it got the time. I thought they did a good job of selling everything. I do think, and I felt like this before, that it was a mistake. I feel like Finn should have won, and to have Damian with a big, but I could probably maybe in a couple weeks I will change my mind and say, you know what, they did the right thing. But I do feel like Finn should have won and have the title now, and you have the belt on him with Damian Priest with the Money in the Bank, but they didn't do that. Tim, what did you think of the match? Was it the right decision for Seth Rollins to retain this title?
I think they're doing themselves an injustice with the way that they're handling. I don't look. So I love the angle of the Priest and Finn Balor. I love that dynamic because it keeps you guessing, right? It keeps the storyline fresh. It keeps you on the edge of your seat, whether or not, like, hey, they're going to turn on each other. But the problem is that there's a third party involved with that, and it's Seth Rollins, and he doesn't cash in, right? Like, so you have this, like, it's like almost like a love triangle, right? Like, hey, like, you need that third partner, and someone needs to have the title, right? So, like, the only way it works is if Finn Balor has the title, right? And then you can create that, keep on, pushing that dynamic, that really cool Finn Balor versus Priest thing, right? Like,
Right, because there's
even
almost
if
parallels here to like a Jey Uso, Sami Zayn last year. I feel like with like there's this faction in like Jey Uso and Sami Zayn, there was a lot of heat between those two leading up to Survivor Series, and but Roman had the titles clearly. You know what I
right.
mean? So like I feel like there's parallels here with Damian and Finn, and then Seth having the title. It's just like, yeah,
But
I don't know where this is going.
the only way it works, right? They're like, they're getting mad over nothing because Finn doesn't have the title.
Right.
Like, it's like, all right, well, like,
If
yeah,
you're
you're
so
causing me
upset,
to
like
lose.
it'd be one thing if you won the title and then he cashed in, but like
Right.
you never win. You never win.
Yes.
You've lost now
Exactly.
3 times in a row. Like, all right, dude, you lost. Sorry. Now it's
And like
Damian's turn.
the easy way around this is like, so I'm thinking there last night, I'm like, why don't they just beat the shit out of Seth Rollins and then Damian Priest cash in, he gets the title.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, that's the way that you resolve it. Like, all right, hey, look, the Money in the Bank thing's going now. It's over and done with, and you resolve the storyline. Hey, if you want to fight me for the belt, then so be it. Like, it makes no sense why they haven't put that belt on Finn Balor to create more of a buzz with the Money in the Bank briefcase, because it's clear that world heavyweight title is what Damian Priest is going after.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, he hasn't shown any interest in any other title, so it's no secret that that's the title he's going after. The match, it was fine. It's just funny. Like, I saw a tweet from the WWE saying that the Money in the Bank case is cursed because every time they bring it to the ring, it somehow costs Finn Balor a match,
Ah,
which is pretty true. But the Judgment Day still has momentum. It's kind of getting old where they come out and they talk about how they run Monday Night Raw,
and
and
that would be another thing if Finn had the belt, would hold a little more weight. You
it
know,
would.
now you got Finn with the belt, Damian with the Money in the Bank, Mommy with the championship, Dom with a championship. We run it all, and it's like, yeah, they do, they really do. But I think that was a mistake. I feel like Finn should have won, and you could have had that quick moment of is Damien going to cash in? And then it ends like that. And then on Raw, you can have the same thing. And then next week, and then like there's just that tension of now he's walking around with the belt. Now they introduced JD McDonough to this whole thing, and I kind of am liking where he's been. He attacks Sami Zayn. He says this belt this contract's driving a wedge between you two, and it's clearly a problem. So I'm interested to see where that goes a little bit, but there needs to be an evolution to kind of what's going on with this. Either one of them has to win the belt at some point. We'll see when. So I like that. We cut to Monday Night Raw. There's a match to decide who the number one contender is for the Intercontinental Championship, a fatal four-way, and I thought a super entertaining match. Our boy Chad Gable shows out, ends up winning the match. What'd you think of this match? And I hope you're as excited as I am for Mr. Chad Gable, the
Now it was
Master Gable, to be the number one contender now.
yeah, it was cool because it was in Minneapolis, which is his hometown. He was after the match was over, he's running around with his kid on his shoulders.
Oh, was that awesome? Like, dude, that
Yeah,
was awesome. I loved that.
yeah, yeah. It was a good spot, and we talk about Gable a lot. That he doesn't get enough credit for what he does in the ring, and God, he is a great worker. And
Another example of all the talent that WWE has, and it's like, what do you do with all this talent?
yeah, and I mean the other guys in the ring held their own too as well. I mean it was an extremely entertaining match. I thought whatchamacallit, I thought the Bro actually held his own really well in that match. He came
Yeah.
out looking good. And then there was a spot at the end of the match, which was really well done, where Gable was trying to do his move, and he does it to all three wrestlers. The first two interrupt it, and then he finally gets it on Ciampa, right?
Yeah.
Tommaso Ciampa,
Champa, yeah.
Ciampa, and that move is just so crazy to me. It's the German suit. Is that a German suplex or
Yeah,
whatever?
belly to back, yeah.
But it's just so slow and deliberate, and he's done it to guys that are three times his size. It's just incredible strength, core strength that he does. We've talked about it before in this match. He's just incredible with the way he handles himself in the ring. He gets the W. He's going to face Gunther. No, he didn't get beat down. Otis got beat down, and he came out to help. But it's cool to see him rewarded, and it seems to be the theme now. Like the guys that are getting over and that are crowd favorites are really starting to get into the action now, right? Like Gable, LA Knight, like these guys that are that have been kind of just uplifted by the fans are
Right.
now starting to get the benefit, to reap the rewards of showing out now in matches. So it's interesting to see. Looking forward to seeing Gable. Look, he's a number one contender now for the Intercontinental title. We talked about Gunther already. I heavily doubt that Gable dethrones him. I had a prediction that Mustafa Ali was going to take him down a few months ago back at I forget, it was Backlash maybe.
Right.
Forget what, but I mean, if my prediction was for him to do it, I don't see why Gable can't do it. Yeah, the match on Raw last week was pretty cool, where he lasted 5 minutes and took him to the final bell. So it'll be interesting to see, but I heavily doubt that Gable takes him down.
Yeah, I doubt that. I doubt he'll take him down too. But if that's the match that's set up for Payback, I would love. That's one I'll be circling. It'll be a incredible match for Gable to kind of showcase his skills, and Gunther who always delivers. All right, so these two matches I'm going to talk on real quickly. It looks like they're setting up for the Mommy Raquel Rodriguez match, which I think is going to be an awesome women's match. I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully that's available for Payback. They're saying Raquel is injured with her knee. That might just be talks for the show, but I feel like that match, Raquel Rodriguez, I've seen her put on some great matches, and obviously Mommy is as good as it gets for the women's wrestling in ring. Speaking of women's wrestling, the triple threat that had Charlotte versus Asuka versus Bianca Belair, and then the cash in by Io Sky. Timmy, I thought the match was pretty good overall. I was not happy with how they played up the knee injury, the what was it, 450 or 540 splash by Bianca was incredible when she had him. That was a great moment. But then the mist that led to the roll up pin for Bianca, I just thought was corny. I thought it was like, come on. She has a healthy Asuka and she's just going to roll her. Like, it just was stupid. The Io Sky cash in was a cool moment, but like, I don't really know much about Io Sky and she doesn't hold any more weight. Like, Charlotte's the number one dog in the women's ring for me on SmackDown. And that's it. Timmy, 1 minute. What do you think of that match? I want to be quick with this one.
Um, I think I was saying to you guys that I couldn't believe that this was the penultimate match of SummerSlam with so many other, so many other matches that were on the card that could have been in that spot. I get it that they had to feature the women towards the end, almost as a co-main event. I just didn't feel like the match delivered when it could have. Uh, I've been critical of Asuka since I've been watching wrestling again. I don't think she's the best out there. It could have been a great match with Charlotte and Bianca. We've seen that before,
Right.
right? It was a great match. We've seen Mommy and Charlotte. We've seen like we know who the number one players are in that division, and I don't think Asuka is there. There's just better wrestlers in there. So yeah,
I agree with you,
yeah.
Tim.
Io Sky doesn't do it for me as a women's champ. So we'll see how long her reign lasts. I doubt it's going to be for that long though.
Yeah. I mean, give her a chance to show out, but it to me, like an Io Sky is like giving Santos Escobar the title and just saying you won. You know what I mean? It's like honestly, it's like who is this chick? Like, tell me an Io Sky match that you're like, wow, that was her and Bianca had a match. What at Backlash or no, on SmackDown that was pretty good. Whatever, right?
She's had decent spots where she's done crazy things, but it just again, it's like I don't know why she has the title. So
Yeah. So either way, I don't know what they're doing with that. Let's get Charlotte the belt or someone that is a little more relevant to me. So last thing we're going to talk about SmackDown. Shinsuke Nakamura, he gets a win against Bronson Reed. Big win for him. A little momentum building. They see the JD McDonough attack Sami Zayn, and they show that elbow. That was pretty cool. You said maybe that elbow was from something else, and it starts to gain fluid, and that'll happen for a week or two. That it happened to your friend, right, Tim? Is that what you're saying before?
yeah, no, yeah. There's sometimes like in your elbow or even in a knee on a joint like that, you can get some fluid in there, and it'll really kind of swell up, and that ball like you know object that you saw on his elbow could be something like that where all it is really you drain it out, there's fluid in there, and then you rest it for a week or so and it'll be fine. But I mean, if that's a long-term thing, that's more serious than it is. I mean, obviously they're going to have to drop those belts because he's not going to be able to perform, but he ends up coming out at the main event and interfering. So I mean, I don't know, he didn't do much, but he did something. So it's not like
Yeah,
he's completely inept. But yeah, no, it was interesting to see that development because I'm sitting there watching that Bronson Reed match, and I'm like, yeah, Shinsuke kind of doesn't have it for me anymore. Like, he used to come out and people would sing his song and sing along, and like it just seems like people have lost interest in him. And the night that I say that Raw, he goes and gets himself booked into the main event, and then at the end of the show turns on, well, not turns on anyone, but he decides that he's gonna challenge Seth Rollins and give him the whatever kick it's called. What is it called?
Kinshasa,
Yeah,
something like that.
it
Yeah,
was weird because I'm sorry, let me
no, go
finish
ahead, go
here.
ahead.
There was like 2 minutes left in Raw, and I'm looking at 11:58, and the match had already been wrapped up, and I'm sitting there like, something's happening here. Like, they're all celebrating, and like I'm looking around, and I see like Shinsuke, he's not like really on the turnbuckle at all. Like, Cody's up there, and Cody and Seth, they shake hands, and it seems like they buried the hatchet after they get the W. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he hits the kick on Seth and walks out of the ring, and it's like, all right, no one saw that one really coming.
Yeah,
So it looks like he's going to get a little bit of a push and get more involved and stop doing those wrestling matches with Ciampa
Bronson
and being
Reed.
a mid carder. So
Yeah.
it was a good win for him, and yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see it. I think Shinsuke has a lot to offer. Another one of those guys that, with all the talent gets kind of lost in the shuffle. I think it was a kind of cool way to end it, and that's gonna be able to take Cody out of that heavyweight championship title, because we've talked about the booking and it's not going to be him that wins it. So it gives this opportunity to someone else, and then maybe Cody feuds with a Dom that leads to, some other hurdle that he has to go through to get to Roman eventually. But Shinsuke at Payback with Seth Rollins will be a great match. And it'll give him a chance to kind of show himself, and all these chances to kind of show for these guys that have been in mid-card level. Like we said, the Miz kind of coming up with LA Knight now is getting his shot. Chad Gable against Gunther, Shinsuke, and so there's so much talent to go around. Where does it leave a Drew McIntyre? Where does it leave a Sheamus? Where does it leave, these main event guys that we've seen leading forward? All right, Timmy, and where does that lead us? That leads us at the end of this episode of Jabroni Drive. Another great episode, and we hope you've enjoyed listening to us. We certainly enjoyed bringing you what we think is some great talk about professional wrestling and WWE. If you like what we're doing, please tell your friends that are professional wrestling fans to tune in, like, share, subscribe, do all those things. New episodes available every week. Timmy, anything you'd like to say to all the Schmidt and Lavellites before we sign off here?
Tom, all I got to say is good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Thanks for tuning in.
Amen. We hope you've appreciated this episode of Jabroni Drive. Until next week, my name's Tom Lavelle.
Oh,
what?
I just was checking real quick.
Right?
You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
And it looks like Dom Mysterio has retained his title on NXT.
Dirty Dom does it again. I love it. Timmy, Dirty Dom retains his title, and guess what?
So do we.
We're retaining our title. That's the greatest professional wrestling show in the history of professional wrestling shows. Until next week, my name's Dirty Tom. I'm joined by Mr.
Tiny
Timothy Schmidt. Tiny Tim?
I was going to go with Tiny Tim.
No, you're not Tiny Tim. If I could come up with something, the megastar, Timothy Schmidt. There can be only one. Tim Schmidt. Yeah. Until next week.
That was bad.
Yeah, that was real bad. We hope you have a great week. Enjoy SmackDown. We'll be tuning in, and hopefully we get some more answers on Jay and Jimmy. We love you. God bless America. And as always, God bless Jabroni Drive. Hasta luego.